Hello there, Slamscape here. Today we've got something a little bit different, but also kind of the same. I'm diving into a bounty hunting build for one of the weirdest ships in Elite Dangerous. Honestly, I have no idea why this thing even exists. It didn't really fill a niche when it launched, and it still doesn't now. I'm talking about none other than the Keelback, or as some like to call it, the Killback. So, why does the Keelback exist? It's basically a Type 6 with a couple more guns and a fighter bay slapped on. It's all red flags. Slow, bulky, terrible jump range, laughably weak shields, and it somehow has the same hardpoints as ships like the Cobra Mark III, the Vipers, the DBS, and yes, the grown-worthy Asp Scout. The one and only real upside? It can fit a fighter bay, and that's about it. So why did I build this flying brick? I've been running a tip goal on stream for some new PC parts, and the first milestone was to build a Keelback bounty hunter. So here we are. Strap in, let's see if throwing every engineering trick in the book at this thing can turn the Keelback into something barely passable as a combat ship. While it's true that the Keelback is more heavily armed than the Type 6 it's based on, the difference is minimal. It only sports 2 small and 2 medium hardpoints. Weapon convergence isn't terrible, but the ship's sluggish maneuverability makes it hard to take advantage of that. I know I could just throw on some turreted weapons and call it a day, but that's not really my style. I experimented with a few different loadouts. I usually favor plasma accelerators on most of my ships, but the Keelback is just too slow to land hits consistently with them. I also tried modified plasma chargers. I know they're technically AX weapons, but their 50% absolute damage actually works surprisingly well against human ships. Plus, their fast projectile speed makes landing shots a lot easier. The issue is that, while the damage is solid, the Keelback's measly size 3 power distributor just can't keep up. Running 4 pips to weapons the entire time kills maneuverability and leaves shields too weak to be viable. I've also tried running small beam lasers paired with some Concord cannons, and while there were less power issues, it took a long time to take out my enemy's shields. I've found 2 hardpoint configurations that work well enough for me. The first configuration is railguns, paired with more railguns. This setup does require a fair bit of pit management, but it still allows me to keep most of the power in engines most of the time. I'm running 2 medium railguns, both engineered with lightweight and using plasma slug as the experimental. I go with lightweight mainly because it cuts distributor draw by 35%, which lets the railguns fire more frequently and helps offset the limitations of the 3A power distributor. Plasma Slug has the railguns use fuel instead of ammo, so it keeps me in the fight longer, and it also reduces heat generation per shot by 40%. The trade-off is a 10% drop in damage, but I find it worth it. For the 2 small railguns, I also use lightweight for the same reasons, but I pair those with Feedback Cascade. They're there to counter shield cell banks, and once enemy shields are down, the plan is to try and snipe the power plant for an easy kill. That said, the Keelback's convergence and low maneuverability make consistent module hits a bit tricky. The second hardpoint configuration, and the one I'm ultimately leaning towards, is a DACA all multi-cannon build. I start with the power play specific multi-cannons, the Enforcers, in the 2 small hardpoints. The Enforcers are fixed multi-cannons that fire a bit slower but deal 50% more DPS than standard small fixed multis. I run them with short-range engineering, which boosts their damage by 75% while cutting their range down to about 2.2 kilometers. The trade-off works for me since hitting with fixed multis at long range can be inconsistent. Overcharge is another option, but it increases distributor draw, which would reduce our firing uptime significantly. I pair the Enforcers with the Incendiary Rounds Experimental, which shifts their damage profile from 100% kinetic to 90% thermal and 10% kinetic. These will be our primary shield-busting weapons. For the 2 medium hardpoints, I go with size 2 gimbaled multi-cannons, also engineered with short range for extra damage. One of them runs the Corrosive Shell Experimental, a staple of multi-cannon builds. It increases hull damage by 25% and lowers the target's armor hardness by 20, which boosts our overall damage even more. The second medium multi-cannon uses emissive munitions, which increases the target's signature. This seems to improve gimbal weapon tracking and accuracy. I'll be showing off this setup in the gameplay section later. For the utility slots, I'm going to be running a kill-worn scanner and shield boosters. Being that this is a bounty hunting ship, I wanted to include a kill-worn scanner. Although, the more I use the Keelback, the more I realize I might need to trade it out for more shield boosters. Although, in all fairness, the more I use the Keelback, the less I want to use the Keelback. Anyway, I use a D-rated kill-worn scanner engineered with fast scan. While this hurts our range, it lowers the scan time from 10 seconds to 2. For the next utility mount, I put in an E shield booster, engineered with resistance, augmented, and supercapacitors as the experimental. Since our overall shield strength isn't great, we're going to need to lean more into resistances. The third utility slot, I use an A-rated shield booster with heavy-duty engineering and supercapacitors to give a 70% boost to our overall shields, giving us final shield strength of 660 and resistances of between 37 to 55%. The core internals house the essential systems required to operate the ship, such as the power plant, thrusters, life support, and more. I would recommend using full engineering or just skipping this build entirely. For the armor, I would suggest running reactive surface composite with lightweight engineering and the deplating experimental. Since the Killback has weak defenses, the heavy armor makes sense since your shields will definitely go down at some point. Also, the impact to our speed between base armor and reactive with lightweight engineering is about 3 meters per second, so it seems worth it. To offset the thermal weaknesses of reactive armor, I compensate with hull reinforcements and the optional internals. Altogether, we'll wind up with around 1500 raw armor hit points and about 2400 once resistances are taken into account. Next, use a 4A power plant with armored engineering and the thermal spread experimental. This combo increases power output and improves heat efficiency. It helps with either weapon configuration, which both tend to generate a decent amount of heat. For the engines, I use 4A thrusters with dirty tuning engineering and drag drives as the experimental. This will improve our speed and let us chug along at a glacial 298 meters per second and boost up to 447. There are configurations that can get more speed, however, we'd have to lose the fighter bay and cut corners in other areas. The frameshift drive should be a 4A SCO enabled version engineered with increased range and mass manager. This will give us a single jump of 31 light years and a total range of 160 light years. While not the highest jump range, it's good enough for hopping around the bubble and running missions. Next, we'll install 1D life support with reinforced engineering. I normally go with lightweight engineering on most ships, but the Keelback has changed that. In the past 6 months, I've had a canopy blowout maybe one time, but during just 4 hours of bounty hunting in the Keelback, I had to limp back to the station 3 times with the oxygen timer counting down. The canopy on the ship is practically made of paper, so reinforced life support is a must. For the power distributor, run a 3A with charge enhanced and super conduits. It will give us a decent recharge when running 4 pips in each subsystem, but will struggle otherwise. The ship would have really benefited from a size 4 distributor. Finally, for the sensors, I run with a 2D with 3 grades of long-range engineering. Since I'm using the ship to bounty hunt, having a longer scan range is beneficial. 3 grades gives a good balance between weight and scan range increase. The optional internals are where we fit our shields, hull reinforcements, and some other optional bounty hunting equipment. In the first Class 5 spot, I fit in a 5C bi-weave shield generator, engineered with thermal resistant and low draw. I generally don't like using a shield gen that's 2 grades higher than the power distributor because you run into the issue of frequently running out of system power. I crunched the math though, and running a 5C with low draw gives a better shield regen than a 3C with fast charge, while still keeping within a 3A power distributor's capacity. We wind up with 660 raw shield strength and resistances of around 37 to 55%. In the second Class 5 slot, we of course fit in our 5D fighter hangar. I didn't have a chance to try all the different fighters, but I was running with the Condor, switching between the plasma repeater and the multi-cannons. I think there are some issues with the NPCs hitting with fixed weapons, so I ultimately went with the version using gimbal beam lasers. It worked well enough, although I think my crew member only being harmless ranked didn't help. It is fun to switch back and forth between the fighter and the main ship though. In the Class 4 slot, I put in a 4D Guardian Shield Reinforcement package, which adds a flat 182 to our shields, which significantly improves our shield strength. In the Class 3 slot, I use a 3D Guardian Shield Reinforcement package which increases our shields by another 143 megajoules, another significant bump. Without these Guardian Shield boosts, we would only have about 330 raw shields, which don't last very long. The next Class 2 slots both house 2D hull reinforcements, with the first spot engineered with heavy duty and deplating, and the second one is engineered with thermal resistant engineering and deplating, which helps offset the negative thermal resist from our reactive surface armor from the core internals. In the final size 1 slot, I fit in a 1D frameshift drive interdictor to pull wanted ships out of Super Cruise. It's not necessary, but it might come in handy from time to time. Now that we have looked through the full build, let's take a bounty hunting run to see the ship in action. Alright, and here we are, joining our bounty hunting session already in progress. So yeah, we're boosting in. Gotta run 4 pips to engines. Basically gives you almost perma boost. Anything less than 4 though, it suffers a bit. So we're gonna try and get on our tail. I am flying this kind of like a fighter, with our fighter as well, but just gonna try and lay into this ship as much as possible, using all of our multi-cannons at once. And our fighter's doing some work.
That's the last of them. All buildings destroyed.
This is a high haz-res. I wasn't really in the mood to try out a hazardous res site. This is kind of about the limits of what the Keelback can handle. So we got our scan off and try and get behind, or ram. Yeah, so we're just gonna hit with our weapons. The enforcers are fixed, but shields have a bigger hitbox, so it's a little bit easier to hit. Which is why we have incendiary on the enforcers to do more thermal damage, which usually shields have a weakness to. We're gonna sort of just like orbit here a little bit. Taking a lot of damage, but not too bad. The one good thing is this shield does have a pretty
Nothing
decent
else showing up on my scanner,
regen
Commander. All
speed.
targets destroyed.
Alright, so we'll fast forward till we find another target. Alright, so we got another clipper. It's pretty far out. Hopefully we can get there before it gets blowed up. I currently have my fighter set to just attack targets that attack me. I don't use them very often, so I don't have any keybinds set up. Okay, yeah, this guy's running, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to out DPS him before he gets away. Also, it's hard to keep up. Nope.
The coast is clear, Commander. Targets
Alright, let's see what else we can find. Two of two. Do I want to attempt that? We'll see. Yeah. Killback's a big target, so it's better at 1v1s. Fighting a wing is not the easiest thing. Although we do have our fighter, which can help split some of the aggro. Alright, so we'll get a scan off. Overshoot our target. I'll have my fighter engage.
I hear you loud and clear. Moving to attack position.
Yeah, one of the big issues with the Keelback, in terms of maneuverability, is when your boost runs out, you just basically go in a straight line until it recovers, like right now.
Enemy has opened up. My ship is hit. Need assistance immediately.
Alright, my fighter's getting destroyed apparently.
Situation critical, Commander. We lost the fighter. It took too much damage, sir.
I hate fighting vultures. They're hard enough as is with a good ship. Let's try and take this eagle out. That's probably a better early kill. Not the easiest to hit with fixed weapons on a Killback, but doing my best. A little bit of a baby ram there. Yeah, I'm trying to keep most of my pips into engines and then swap back and forth between systems and weapons as needed. Although right now I need more in system because I'm getting hit and my shields are getting pretty low. I'm gonna run a bit and see if I can get some regen while I wait for my fighter to get finished being constructed. Alright, fighter's ready to go. Let's get that out here.
Wilco, Commander. Let's deploy this fighter. Fighter is ready. Just tell me what to do.
I already told you what to do. Yeah, you basically have to boost just to turn. It's pretty rough. Again, not sure what, you know, the thought process behind this ship was. Well, I mean, I know what it was. It was supposed to be a more heavily armored Type 6, but the trade-off in cargo capacity doesn't really seem worth the weak improvement in protection that the Keelback has over the Type 6. They're both like, you know, paper ships. And there you have it, the Keelback Bounty Hunter build. Is it good? Absolutely not. Is it viable? Barely, but also no. But does it have a fighter bay and the heart of a champion? I guess? If nothing else, this build proves that with enough engineering, desperation, and poor life choices, anything is possible in Elite Dangerous. If you enjoyed watching this flying brick barely holding itself together, go ahead and like the video, leave a comment roasting the Killback, and subscribe for more cursed builds and questionable decisions. Thank you for watching. This is Slamscape reminding you, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Fly safe or don't.